You send me out
Good
DMs.
tunes. This is throwing us back, eh? Some flashbacks to another time.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Give us a thumbs up from the crowd if you know that song. You remember when it came out. You remember where you were when you listened to that with your friends. Oh, we might share some of our ages.
I mean, I was in high school, man. That was high school for me.
Yeah, same here. Good times though. You know the music they make now. We don't want to sound like old people.
They
Or
don't
like
make music like they used to.
no, they don't. Hey, back then, they didn't have all the synthesizers and AI, right? You had to be good at instruments.
It's a good point, man. I've been making AI music for my friends just for fun, and it's like, oh, did you get this produced? I was like, no, I wrote like 2 sentences and it spit it, just spit this whole thing out.
This is pretty amazing stuff you can make. Like it's the barrier to those like creating a full-on production song is actually so much lower now. It's actually insane. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
crazy.
yeah, you can get up to, I would say, 70% of production value without anybody else, just by yourself, right? It's just that
Mhm.
30% that sets everybody apart. We're still a little bit not quite there. And for people that do know how to use these tools, then yeah, we're there. But it's got pros and cons, right? I mean, love what AI has been able to do as far as propelling businesses, propelling just people in general who are interested in tech forward. But then you have that little privacy issue that it comes with.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're facing that now. Obviously, the slope is getting steeper, and some of us who work in the space all the time, like me and others, and even yourself, actually, you mingle with a lot of projects that are, I guess you could say, in the privacy space, the educational space about being secure online and being safe. And hey, even if you're a meme trader or someone who likes to, deal with trading, I mean, you got to keep yourself private, secure. You don't want to be hacked. I mean, it's such a relevant thing. That whole space has changed so much, and now people are sitting there wondering, like, okay, is my phone giving all my data now to a cloud that I'm not sure of? Is my computer having screenshots being done and I'm not sure where those are going? And I'm naming the big companies now with these things that are happening. The conversations are happening, but the products are going live at the same time. So who's pushing back on that?
You're
I
you're
don't
so
know.
dead on. But can you do me a favor, Corey? Like, give me that 30-second overview of what Mask is, just because I know somebody just hopped on the space. I don't want to make sure that people know what you actually do.
Yeah, well, hey, I would like to say that we stand to kind of be a counterbalance to the stuff I just said, right? We've built a privacy ecosystem. So Mask exists as a protocol, like a peer networking protocol, an earning ecosystem, Web3 dApp store, and the browser we've made is pretty much a Web3 enabled browser, but it's all based on privacy by default, meaning when you hop into the software, hop into the space, everything that's built is privacy preserving, and you don't have to toggle things on to make sure you're private, which is very different to how most products are shipped now, right? Most of the stuff I just mentioned is going live soon. A lot of them are actually opt out, meaning you have to tell these products, firmware, do not send my shit to a silo unless I say yes. You have to turn that off. And we think that's pretty much like not cool anymore. It's not even value add to the users. So we're constantly building this ecosystem out. The software is live and it's in testnet. Anyone can try it. It doesn't cost you anything. You can go to maskbrowser.com, try the browser. We're working on the next version to be released very soon too. And all of this work is going into just pretty much giving someone an alternative way to surf the web, do the things they want to do without being geo-blocked, without their private information being harvested and monetized, and with it being as secure as we can deliver, so people can basically do what they would like at the freedom they want and not worry about these things. So that's why we exist.
All right, since Space is actually like picking up keywords and stuff at the very beginning of it, how would you define Mask as far as projects go? What bucket would you put Mask in Web3?
I would say we're public good, absolutely public good. We're an infrastructure project. We are,
So,
Web3 is a broad term.
Okay, so you're an infrastructure project. Are you decentralized?
We are decentralized, absolutely, and we are in privacy space.
So you would call it a D pen, maybe for those people who love buzzwords.
Yeah, true. I could see you going that direction too. I mean, the thing with labels is like I still don't really know if DPen like encompasses what we are, but we are asked loads of. I'm actually getting speaker invites on email from events saying, "Hey, we noticed what you're doing. We'd love for you to attend our DPen event and like speak." And I'm like, well, like, are we as organically DPen as some of the others out there? Like, we don't require hardware, right? Where some are, but I think we would sit in that camp, right? Like maybe half of our sort of concepts are in DPen.
I mean, you do require hardware. It's not like people can run this in their brains, so there is a hardware requirement here.
That is true. I suppose, yeah. You could run it on. You have to run it on your machine. Yeah, your desktop. I guess you could run it in the cloud too if you want to run it in a cloud server. But I guess that eventually goes to a bare metal device eventually. So yeah, we are hardware based. But yeah, I guess you could use that as a way to say anything, and blockchain could be DPen.
I mean, people are definitely leveraging it. People are definitely using it. And Corey, meet Larry. Larry, meet Corey.
Hey, Corey. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hey, no worries. I'm glad to have you. I like your hat there and your avatar too.
Yeah, it's a homage back to my ancestry. It's a Korean nobleman. So, yeah.
Nice. I very much like that. Well, hey, welcome on board. I mean,
thank you so much.
We're happy to talk the tech or talk the trends. I mean, I feel like privacy is a narrative that we can see is really never going to be irrelevant in this world.
Oh yeah, we're living in an Orwellian reality now for sure. So it's quite alarming at the rate that the terms and conditions of use are at the sacrifice of our own data, right? Our own meta. So.
Well, I think it shows more and more, like, what if anyone attends these, or this could be your first time joining into a mass space or whatever. But if you've been here for like probably at least from the beginning of the year, some of our core things we talk about have only really been exemplified by what's going on in the modern world, right? Because now with this advent of AI, and it's just blown up, with not only just attention but investment. People realize like data is king, right? And who's got the data becomes the powerful players, but the data has to come from somewhere. It's got to come from the users. And so all these mechanisms are to create a big, big collection of data, because you can only train AI with as much data as you have on humans, right? Like you can't just create data out of nothing, right?
you create the base syntax and the training language, of course. So AI is only as expansive as its creator, but like you said, it's a double-edged sword. As great as it is, it's also a burgeoning threat on our day-to-day lives at some time. So I mean, what things can bring balance are, just listening briefly about mask protocol. It sounds like it's something that's probably going to be more and more needed, and so I'm happy to be here to listen to you about it, and to refer back to what Action was talking about. DPen is what will really require some hardware-based solutions, and to be decentralized totally. I mean, because when you're on a cloud or you're on a server, let's face it, you're not totally decentralized. No matter which way you look at it. If you're on AWS or Azure, which is 90% of the market, there are a few like Linux-based, they call them democratized cloud networks, but they're not totally democratized, because the powers that be still require you to check in or provide even unnecessary or unwanted DD or KYC. But so how do we avoid that? Well, user-based subscriptionship, or like specified end user interface on hardware-based technologies. So for example, myself and Action, we represent a few companies, but we represent companies that, for example, I'm a CSO for a company that has a data center in the UK that has about 1,000 GPUs. Most of them are A4000 tensor cores, right? But could you imagine your own one-off front end that allows you a selective interface onto centralized platforms or main web, and still allowing you to keep um, your host meta and your infrastructure separated via this interface? So, your own node or your own cloud network based on the node space. And let's face it, if you are even on AWS's like a creator program or Azure's foundation program, if you get one processor, one GPU worth of processing, you are somebody. But could you imagine having 10 or 15 for your task or your hosting or whatever end use that that you wanted to implement? And I think that's really truly DePIN is having your own infrastructure in order to provide yourself the barrier of separation, right?
Yeah, that's going to be such a key player because we can't be fully decentralized unless these layers of infrastructure within a project or within a project solution stack, if you will, has those elements, right? And right now, I mean, even with us, I'll give everyone an example. Because the network is still maturing, we do have to bootstrap, and through trusted people in our team and community, we bootstrap the mesh network by having some nodes running, and so all the retail or end users can all join as well, and they can host as well. But you have a little core one that is always up, and some of those have to leverage different platforms. We tried to spread them out between residential, a little bit on the big three, or you've named two. They do have 90% of the market, but we've tried to shift all those out to other providers that might have their own bare metal. One I'm working closely with, we're trying to unlock the tech blockers to allow us to scale into them is Spheron. They do a lot with Akash, and these are sort of D cloud providers, or like you've mentioned, renting GPU power. But yeah, that's really the way to make sure it's robust, and that's where it's going to be tested in the future, right? Like if someone doesn't like you up in those big corps, like how easily can they shut you down? That's where the true test comes into play, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the parts of the problem. It's a three-dimensional problem that being within regulation and local jurisdiction, as well as making yourself affable enough or intersectable in exchange on main networks, right? But one of the things that I think Mask and I think that's overlooked on similar protocols, but like your protocol, is that privacy doesn't come without its benefits on the mechanism of action. So when you're on a secured end user network, like with all the privacy protocol, you have the advantage of not having as much traffic. So latency and transfer optimization is also a key benefit. So I think that's something that's lost in translation. People are like, oh, you don't have, will it be as fast because you have all of this extra weight? But actually it's the extra weight's making you run faster, right? So it's another point that I wanted to add, is that with privacy comes the benefit of additional speed because you don't have all the extra weight dragging you around, other than the provisions that you make for making your transfer your data or your end tasks private. So I think those are big things that are often missed when we talk about keeping our daily end tasks private, or at least democratizing the process where we have the choice. Because again, oftentimes it's not allotted to us. But yeah, in a later conversation, we'd love to talk to you since you're talking to some of these other protocols. But unlike a lot of protocols, we've had a data center operating for 2 years and we have 1,000 GPUs online now. So and we were licensed in the UK, so it's not like we're licensed in a provisional area where we won't be accepted by like a lot of Western entities or the powers that be. So that's I think room for future conversation. So thank you for letting me shoot my little blurb.
No, awesome. I don't totally want to connect after this, based on what you're saying too, because we're just always looking at who else can give us some opportunity or options out there to basically build out our ecosystem to leverage more ways of decentralization, and having it done. Like a big thing you said, which people sort of still kind of cringe at, is in a regulated space, because you can't do things that are not allowed to be done to a certain degree, right? You can make a protocol permissionless, and you can make a protocol censorship resistant or uncensorable potentially. But if users are then in trouble for using it in certain jurisdictions, then you're kind of alienating part of the users. So by going through paths that allow you to do it in a safe way, but in a regulated way where it's not exactly becoming illegal to do, which we know a perfect example is Tor right now. It's a public good. It's run as a charity. And essentially our concepts are similar to Tor. Now, if the world wanted to shut down peer privacy networks, they would have to go after the likes of Tor and OpenVPN software developers and stuff like Mask. So it's a big ask for them to fully shut us down and attack us, but at the same time, you want to do it in a way that's good. It's regulated.
I'm happy that you touched on that point, because on a policy side, the same laws that protect IP are what allow things like VPN or Tor. But now the new I think the new hope is actually agent layer, where you can have a proxy agent on your behalf based on like zero knowledge technology, for example, or listless, permissionless protocols. So I think actually where there's a will, there's a way. It's like playing chess. So people are so strong on protection of IP. These same policies for the masses based on common law, which most of the world is based on, rectifies and gives you rights to provision things like an agent layer, right? So I think having an agent layer proxy, you could just have a layered network. See, I think that's the great parallel on a deep think, that people think that the DeFi and cryptocurrency, we all need to make money and at the end of the day, be able to pay for our bills and take care of our families. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, the parallel is that a lot of the currency are just vehicles for data and meta, right? So I think we can apply these two same analogies of IP and currency transfer to make a best use case or argument for technologies like agent layer, and even to continue to proliferate freedoms like Tor or VPNs, etc. Within the space. So I think in that aspect, because the powers that be require a lot of the same technologies on the reverse end, that provisioning for protocols like Mask and or what I call zero loss AI is a positive thing. It's a movement that can be sustained, and it really is like, I think it's a fact that most DeepIn community are not aware of, that there is a side of DeepIn that requires creative representation and interface on IP. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think for people who are maybe not as technical as you and I, it almost sums up to the whole. I've kind of gone back to that. I think A16Z wrote a paper which defined Web3 as read, write, own, right? So the whole own part is that now people and creators and everyone who moves data around that as their own realizes there's value in there, and if that value is never kept or minimized from being basically just leaked everywhere for all the powers that be and the corporations that we talk about, they're capturing all that value. then the user eventually sits there feeling helpless, like, where's all my value gone as an individual, right? If I create something, you want to keep the value of your creation. If you're Joe Blogs, 30 years old, you got a wife and two kids, and you live in this state, you don't want that information flying all around, making all these corporations money, and you never see a cent, you never get a discount. All you see is ads of what they think you want to buy. That's kind of like so real now. People are sitting there thinking, well, how do I take steps to just make a simple move away from that because I don't agree with it? And that's where we come in with products that are easy to use to just say, here's a way. Like, it's just a way to educate yourself. Try it out. You don't have to switch browsers today because I've gone through that. It's painful to switch browsers completely, but just try it. Like, have a side browser. Everyone wants a side hustle these days. There's no excuse not to have a side hustle these days. If you're outgoing, you got initiative, you got time, right? Hey, Mask can be your side browser. I want to promote that more, starting today because I've written it down so many times.
That's where I draw the line, though, Corey. I know a lot of people have the side chicks. I don't mess with that. It's just side browser. That's the hard line.
Yeah, I thought you might pick up on that joke because I might have written that down too, and I was like, I better not say that today because my wife might be in the other room.
Well, I mean, it's great that you actually pointed that out because I think that the same arguments that we make. So, for example, at some point. I'll just give you an example. We pay gas whether we want to or not, right? And I think that a happy compromise can be struck for the privilege. So I'm not saying a tax, but a gas that could be applied for the powers that be to really stay decentralized, right? It's not like we don't. I think most of the communities would be okay with a provisioning like compromise to keep viability of Mask and other privacy technologies or proxy technologies in field. I think it's just about compromise, and that one of the biggest things is lowering the barrier of entry. So I think that's what I like about Mask. Before I jumped in here, is that it lowers the barrier of entry, and it allows people that maybe don't understand everything to make a simple move in taking care of in democratizing their process in Web3, right? So I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. And again, we also want to make sure we share things that we're more fortunate maybe where we live, and even hosting in the space that you might be in, right? Like you're trying to democratize, potentially or spread ease of use to computing layers where they're not like fully price gouging on the big scene for maybe businesses or even SMEs, small to medium enterprise who don't have budgets for these huge computing, commitments or contracts, and they just want to use it for certain applications. You're making it more fair. And then in our space with Mask, like there's countries that literally can't go onto Twitter unless they use a VPN, which are heavily regulated sometimes in their country, where they're basically like spy vehicles that are existing just to be allowed to be used because the state controls them. And, people are censored from stuff. And so if you can have a way to share freedom from west to east or from whatever labels you want to use, like the people who are relatively free can run Mask and say, hey, I'm going to serve, I'll get some tokens for it, but really I'm going to share my internet freedom with those who don't have it. And it kind of levels that playing field on that level too, while keeping private. So it's pretty powerful stuff, and I totally love to talk after this, man. So let's totally connect, definitely connect after this.
For sure. I like that you didn't leave out that it's a privilege. That just being able to speak amongst our peers is a privilege that many of us are not afforded. And there is altruistic, if we talk about in the spirit of blockchain, there's transparency. And if we're talking about in the spirit of DeFi, that we're allowing ourselves and our peers to have access and to kind of future-proof their ability to live, at least express. And again, I think even the fiat and the main commodities go back to just proliferation of data. And I think a part of that is democratizing the process and also being allowed to have the privilege. So, I think with more the balancing act of privilege versus mass adaptation, I think that it's bright. I think we're all early, so I'm happy that you alluded to that this is a privilege that we take for granted. Maybe many of us. I'm somewhere now where I couldn't be on here without a good hardware and a VPN that would allow me to be engaging with you right now. I wouldn't be able to if I didn't. So
Yeah. And it's common too. We have Russian super fans and community contributors and people who love us. And that's how they use Twitter is through Mask, because their VPNs keep getting shut down, or one day they're there, one day they're not. Yeah, it's a real thing. Action Head is running with the famous flooding event of crypto conferences. Where you had to use
no,
Mask.
Mass saved me when I was in Dubai. That was for sure. It was the only way I could get on WhatsApp.
oh wow.
It's crazy.
Were you there? Were you there for their action for the?
Yeah,
during the
so
flooding?
I went to Token 2049 in
Oh,
Dubai, and it was amazing because I got there the day before the flood, so I just got to watch from my hotel room while everybody was freaking out. So, yeah, I mean, it was perfect timing.
well, if it's good for you, then it's good for me. It's just funny. I was there a week later for CED and didn't. I guess I missed all that excitement. But yeah, I mean, yeah, with products like Mask, VPNs are selectively removed all the time, no matter what updates are provided. Especially where I'm at, I've had to find. I mean, when you subscribe to 3 or 4 VPNs at one time, just in case, because everyone says they're the best, right? But at the end, you're just out, $1,000 a year because you need it for just even be able to communicate with your loved ones, stateside or in Europe or whatever. It's kind of disheartening. So it's exciting that products like Masks are able to proliferate and to flourish in Web3. So
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And like just to like double down on that, like it, basically what happens is that these guys don't have as many services as everybody thinks, and those just get blacklisted, and then you're done. All that money that you're paying into those pieces of software doesn't matter anymore once they, figure out, okay, so this is the server there, this VPN is using. You get what, 1,000, 5,000 people using it. Well, we're going to go ahead and shut that one down because it's going to cut access to all of these people at the same time.
exactly, and as they become as some of the VPN providers become more popular, they have more pressure, and then they get governed by their shareholders because they become commonplace. So I'll give you an example. I'm not shitting on them, but I will shit on them as ExpressVPN. Great marketing. It had a great ethos in the beginning. But then I don't know how you can have a VPN where they guarantee service in the area that you're at and are highly suggested and just not have service for a whole year. You paid a year ahead of time, but absolutely no service for a whole year. Could you imagine doing your thesis for your PhD and having to stop, not just because of COVID, but where you're at, and not being able to do any of your research with your team, or being able to? I mean, it kept me from it stopped me from completing my PhD to the point where I just said, it's not viable anymore just because of a VPN, right? So, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, and that's actually a scenario I've only thought about in terms of people studying who need freedom of access of information online in an area that censors them, but even to that level where you're like, you're in tertiary level education, it's not cheap to do a PhD, but you're also under a time frame to finish your thesis, and you can't access anything. Like that's absurd, and you're paying for a service that's supposed to do it. That's crazy, man. It's something I actually haven't thought of. So that's wild.
It's really crucial. I mean, yeah, it really stopped me. I was finishing. I finished my master's, and then I was forced by my program. Well, we want you to do a capstone into going into your PhD thesis. Was at Georgetown actually for my applied for. I had I had my master's in applied intelligence from Georgetown with focus on 0 day, and then I was rolling into my PhD, and then I just gave up because I just couldn't. I didn't have access anymore from where I'm at, so it was just killing me. So, and like you said, the tertiary costs of being at almost any academic institution for post-secondary education, but especially at that level, is just, I just felt like I was paying another mortgage for nothing.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And so, yeah, that's where we come in, right? With these options, with ways that they kind of decentralize control where there actually isn't a controlling entity that could be sort of shut down. But on the other side, like VPN, that's a good example with using a VPN is you have to subscribe, right? Which means firstly, they take your name, your credit card, and at the very least, maybe your IP, that you use to sign up, and your email, and they would make you pay. Now, if they're shut down, then of course, or served or subpoenaed or whatever, pressured, those customer profiles are probably seized. Now, if you collect customer data, it's going to be somewhere. So if you just do everything you can to not collect anything on your users, then you can't be served. And that's sort of how Proton, although, there's different scenarios that people have been upset about with them, but them and other providers like email services where they don't collect customer data at all, well, you can't serve them for customer information. So then you have a layer of protection against, having to reveal things of your customers or your users that they may not want. And it's like a liability. So yeah, that's part of decentralization too. That's important, I think.
Absolutely. It's exciting that the evolution of privacy and I think just creative freedom is being proliferated within the space, and there's people and projects like you that are willing to continue trying to preserve that, but without all the salty end feeling like I just described with paying a year ahead of time because you're going abroad and you're going to an austere environment, trying to do the good work, right? And then you can't even communicate with some of your family members most of the time, right? There's that part too, that it's just a very simple request to stay in touch with your brother or your nieces and nephews, and you can't do it because there's no way to make a call out other than a phone call. So I think for people in certain parts of the world, I mean, even just being able to stay in touch with your loved ones is a huge consideration. And it's not always a privilege. Like you said, it's a privilege that we're even on here. So, it really lets you take the optic of like what, you can't take anything for granted these days, including your privacy, right? So it can be something as simple, but as substantial as, being able to keep in touch with your loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a little pre-chat here, me and Action, and we kind of laughed because we said some of these cliches that we've said in the past, where it's like you don't need security until you do, or you don't need privacy until you do, and it's sort of like, yeah, you have moments where you think about it, like, man, what if I was in a place I needed a VPN and it was shut off? Like I couldn't even call my if let's say I lost my passport, like, well, how do I call my family? I guess payphones don't even exist in some places. So, you can't go to a payphone and do an international call the same way back in the day with hard lines. It's like, yeah, you get quite isolated or helpless. And yeah, it makes you think like, wow, some of the stuff we're trying to build out, it has a lot of uses, but it's almost some of those simple ones that you sort of always, you kind of can forget easily. Until you really need it. So yeah, so
we take a lot for granted, man. That's for sure. Like we take a lot of things for granted until it really matters and it impacts us directly, right? We live in bubbles, a lot of us. Like unless you're going overseas and having to experience some of these things firsthand. Like I know in the U.S. that's the case. People here really don't get it until they get exposed to different cultures. Flying out somewhere where they're like, wait, I can't do this here. we do absolutely take a lot of these things for granted. But it's okay. Like I rather people take. This is going to sound crazy, but I rather people take it for granted than not have the freedoms that we have. Right. So I feel good about having to preach about the importance of privacy and all these things, just because honestly, I don't want people to lose it. So it's okay if we're the ones having to talk about it, and I mean basically talk about it over and over again until they kind of care about it, just because it wouldn't be a good space if they were just losing it to learn about it. But Kayla, get your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I'm preaching privacy all the time. Action knows that, and people don't care. But it only well they do, but it's such a niche group, and it only recently occurred to me that like I'm privileged to be preaching to people about privacy. I'm definitely one of those like people from the USA who just like I was a flight attendant, so I've been to other countries, but never like a country that didn't have internet access. So yeah, like I'm one of those people who like I was living in my bubble where I was like everybody should care about data privacy, and then like I was preaching to I forget who, and they were kind of like I don't really have internet, and I was like oh my gosh, like how do you pitch that to people who don't have internet, you know? But another thing I was going to say is, you know, it's really cool to have a browser that can remove what do you call it? Geo fencing. Like I hate not being able to look at different information in different countries and just like see what I love being able to like switch the VPN and be like, what do people in this country think like about this topic? Like that's one of my favorite things to do in a browser. So yeah, I'm that's the only time I have access to outside opinions.
Wait, because you're being manipulated based on where you live?
Well, yeah, totally. If listen, I'm a VPN nerd. So if you switch the VPN to Italy or you switch it to UK, you're going to find different stuff when you search. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
You will have some fun with masks, seriously. Like because right now we're working on the feature that lets you pick, available countries. We have what we've coined as the country jump, right? So you might be routing to somewhere. It's going to grab like the closest sort of route or whatever. So it could be in Italy, could be in US, could be in UK, right? But it's cool if you do exactly what you said. You go to somewhere like I don't know, BBC.com or even YouTube, and whatever country you land in, you'll see such a different homepage with different narratives and different pieces of information or news. And it's like really bizarre to see things through a different lens, just like that. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it makes you because when I was traveling a lot, I did notice that. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is the browser going to look like in this country? And now I come back here and I like if I want to Google a news topic, I'll check out what the top article in each country is for that topic. So like if there's some big USA scandal, I go find out what other countries think. Otherwise, yeah, they're totally manipulating us.
Oh man. And this season we're in, we joke about it because like it's polarizing now. Crypto's become an election item, right? An election topic. But really like underneath that is these same narratives that we constantly have been seeing, which is like, are they censoring us? Do we actually have freedom of information? Are they meddling with misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, whatever you want to call it, fake? What did they call that crap before? Alternative facts, whatever the hell these media companies want to brand these things, it's all the same thing. It's like you're diverting from truth. How are they doing that? It actually doesn't matter. It's like, is it where you live? What if it's state by state? I mean, it's so crazy, and we're going to see only that intensify as we get towards the end of the year, where these things are going to be quite obvious to people like us,
Well, I will chime in on that. I will tell you that is already exists stateside based on certain provisions and media. So, like for example, if for Second Amendment for firearms, not everyone has to agree on it. But if you look at the media filters for states like California, New York City versus states like Alaska or Florida and Texas, a lot of the meta is already filtered and provisioned to be totally separated. And it's a well-known fact that the NSA has been running filtering and meta-gathering apparatus based on social media use state by state for quite some time, especially after the fallout of the last Trump presidency. It's not based on like if you like Trump or Biden or you're a Democrat or Republican, but it's just facts that, but for what they consider to be an oracle for future day events or 0-day events. So I'm from a defense background, so I will tell you that speculatively, I'm just telling you as an educated person that was in that end of the space before, that it's probably a very high probability that it's already happened. And the other FAQ that I wanted to give you is: could you imagine having a Starlink mobile web enabler, but you still can't get any access because without a VPN or something like Mask, the powers that be or the local environment you would be in are not providing the segue, So and another, the biggest use case is like you think about countries like the Emirates, and you go to like Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Ras Al Khaimah, it's the most free proliferation of Web3, of DeFi, blockchain. It's one of the most welcoming environments in the world. But if you don't have a VPN, there are video hosting, video calls, and access to certain multimedia and social media are not allowed without the VPN. So isn't that ironic that being in the most democratized nation in the world to do business in Web3 for technology demonstrators and for cryptocurrency, but yet the core, one of the cores is, can I host this video meeting with my peers or my business associates? But you can't, because video calls are not allowed. And it's not a bad thing. It's just their protocol for what they consider their security apparatus. So I'm not talking negatively about the Emirates policy. I'm just saying that you have to, like you say, alternative facts. We just need alternative interface, right, in order to complete our end goals and tasks. And myself being a Korean American, but I believe that there's one group of Korean people, that Koreans are Koreans, and unfortunately we have a North and South. There's so many people that even in a total blackout country where 1% of people, of the 1% that live in Pyongyang, are the ones that have access to the internet, but somehow, some way, people get mobile devices with either Chinese or South Korean SIM cards, and they run to clear areas and with VPNs, and they still find a way. So, I mean, I think that is a galvanizing and empowering sentiment that no matter what, people find a way. It can be in the driest desert in the world, or it can be in the most socially controlled country or entity in the world. But people still find a way to be people. And I think that's one of the good things about protocols like Mask or a lot of the associated technologies, is one of the main things that humans need as a daily usage or a daily need is a ability to communicate with other human beings, right? It's within our DNA. And it's what separates us from animals, is the spark of creation and to be able to communicate socially. So I think beyond all the technology, that it's our responsibility to provide solutions or choices, right?
Yeah, well said, well said. There's a lot to take out of just what you said right there, especially with some of your heritage you touched on. And where there is a will, there's a way. And we hope to be one of those ways, right? We are live now. And I mean, with Mask as it is, some of the things you said, it's about connections, right? So we talk about networking and mesh network, tech buzzword, trends of all these little narratives going around. But really, it is about connection, right? And we've all just talked about wanting to talk to someone from overseas, wanting to do a video call and you can't, want to get information in a different country and you're blocked. I mean, the fact that we're actually saying that these are real problems in the 21st century, in 2024, with all the technology we have, It blows my mind. And I actually said this before, but I do this work, at the moment, there's lots of ways that I see mass going and a good thing. But for my personal sense, I'm doing it for my grandkids and my kids. So I can try to say, I've put something out there as a team to make sure that they can not have barriers from, the big brothers out there that say, you don't need to know this, you can't handle the truth, or we're scared of what will happen if everyone knows what really is going down. It's like, I don't want to watch that world go more Orwellian, like year by year and not do anything. And so that's powered my passion for what we're building at Mask and all the stuff that you guys are building too. Like, I've gone to your website, MetaTrust, like you got lots of cool stuff going on, and that's a big layer that needs to be, evolved. But without getting too techie as well, like what you said about being North and South in Korea, and then we also look at China as a big market one day without people getting persecuted for using such technology. But with Mask, it's multi-hop. So like really, you just need to establish that one hop into that link, like you said with Starlink. Like if you can do the first hop to get past censorship and get into the next layer, which might be open, free, modular, whatever it is, that's kind of all you need. And so if you have that way, different pathways, different bridges, it's going to be possible. And people will find a way to do it. People find a way to build on it. If it's open source, which ours is, people will find a way to evolve it and make it better. And like, that's kind of like sums up everything we're saying, is that we want that future, we all want that future. And if it's successful, then we'll all be here to talk about it, with a lot more excitement, which it will be.
I think it's amazing that you touched on that, and I just wanted to remind people that a lot of people just are uneducated on what we're talking about. And if you want to think about it, VPNs and products like masks have survived and been proliferated for thousands of years. It's just the first one that we had was called a book and print, right? How do we proliferate knowledge and communication and language without it being written? And so, this is just our new book, right? And it's our responsibility to try to teach the language and give access to the new book for the new millennia, right? So I think, literacy is very important. And, how can we teach literacy without products and technologies that we're discussing now within this space that's enabling us to have this space, for example, right? So I guess it's our responsibility to start writing a new book, right? Or giving the people to print on a book. So I think protocols like Mask are really good examples of using that as a really close to humanity analogy that I think anyone can touch on. As I think a lot of us learned on a book, and then we communicate through print, which unfortunately the book and the magazine has gone by the wayside, but we're on our mobile devices or our computers, and we're able to communicate every day. So, I mean, it's just a really fast book, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we're able to keep writing.
Yeah, well said. That's such a good analogy. We got to keep writing the book of Mask and the book of Web3 and the book of all the cool stuff that each of us is involved in, and host these spaces, right? I mean, this is where all the creativity and ideation happens in real time, and anyone listening to this, you've heard from some very, very intelligent people, not me, these other people, and learned, hopefully a little bit about what the vision is, and some of the products are they're right here live to try, and it shows that the concept is real, and we just want to keep building. We've still got a lot of progress to deliver and a lot of work to do, but this is showing the way.
And Corey, I know for a fact you got some things you want to make sure you cover, like what's actually going on with Mask, because we haven't had one of these in a little while. So any updates you want to give of things that are working, things that are on the pipeline?
Yeah. I mean, I might have to post some of them as well off air, because we may run short on time, because we had such a good discussion. And I'll make sure that our awesome team curates the updates, and then we puts them out too in maybe a post or a thread. But yeah, we've had a lot going on. We're really working towards the first modeling of what we call the Mask Lite app. So this is another software that we're going to release, which is basically the Mask browser stripped down, taking the browser out of it, and then you can run it on your computer and basically maskify your computer or maskify your favorite browser, default browser that you use now. Now, of course, the Mask browser, we're still going to build out features. We're still going to make that a super awesome experience like it is now. And we've got another version that's almost finished. We were hoping to get it out earlier with some really cool updates and a couple new features in there, which is also due to be released really soon. But the work that people who've been a user of Mask, at least in the past few months, those updates you're seeing where we're slowly moving everything into that panel, into that connection panel where the Mask globe now sits. That's all, what I've been saying is that's all preparation for these other apps, the mobile app, the extension that could sit in a browser, and the Mask Lite client. Because when you modularize what the little window that the users actually live in to set things up or change a setting, once that's universal, we can make all these products with the same thing. So that's why we've been spending so much time on that, because that same thing you see in the browser will be probably pretty much the same thing that pops up when we release that Lite client that sits in your system tray or your dock on a Mac. You click it, pops up, it says, hey, I want to change hops, I want to change countries, I want to check out my balance, I want to do this. And it's all there in one thing. And it's the same thing that can be made into an extension. So we're really starting the first few steps of development on those, which is pretty cool. Real exciting. And actually the dev team is super buzzing because they're like, whoa, we're gonna do this? We're gonna do another app? And I'm like, yeah, but just tidy up your loose ends on the browser too, right? Because I've got a big wish list on that too. But it's all gonna work well because it's like parallel work sort of thing, right? Another big announcement that I'd like to mention is we've been included as a public good eligible project for the Octant Community Grant. And they have, they're through the Golem Foundation. It's a pretty amazing opportunity there. And they pick public good projects every epoch. They do them every quarter, I believe. And they have 100,000 ETH that they've staked in this foundation. And they use the yield from that to donate to public goods. And so these community members who are in that Octant community, they vote on the projects they like. And then that ETH is dedicated to them as grants. And I've put us there because, one, I think we deserve it. Two, most of you know our history. We've never raised money through public or private sales. We've never done an ICO and never had VC or angel investors. Yes, I've had people approach me, but I've always said we're community first. So, at the timing and all of that, we've never done it. So we're relying on, community funding opportunities and grants like this. This is a huge one, probably the biggest potential one that we can really, really bolster our development funding. And that means that if we get some attention there and some funding there, I can recruit and get us more devs to build these apps I've just mentioned, build a better browser, increase the feature cadence of the core software. And that brings me to one more update is I've mentioned this in one of our channels. Someone was asking, how close is the country feature where you can pick your exit location? And like Kay said, sometimes you might want to just sit there and I wonder what they're looking at on the site if I was in Italy, and you can choose Italy, right? So this feature is probably more complex than people realize, but we're about 50% of the way through, which I think was faster than we probably scoped at the time when we first mapped it out. That's all in our public open source repo too. So those who are a little more savvy, you can hop onto our GitHub and have a look. But there's a bunch of what we call dev cards. These are like specific functionalities that need to be developed. And half of them are pretty much in motion or close to being done. And that's super cool because that means we'll hopefully be able to ship that feature before the end of the year. I don't want to say that's like a guarantee that it's going now. It's actually really, really cool and really promising. Oops, sorry. I had a call coming through which interrupted the stream. Can you still hear me?
Actually better. I don't know if you disconnected from the headset of yours that you think is good, but it's a lot better now.
Oh, sorry. I hate that when you're on your phone and then someone calls and it interrupts the call thing. Hopefully I'm back now. So yeah, that's a big update on there. Now for all of you loyal community members, people who've helped us, people who've used the browser and given us feedback, people just hang out with us and talk to the devs and, give us some like words of encouragement and stuff like that. We love all of you. It's about time we give back. Please check out that post. We put it out last week. We're going to launch our ecosystem accelerator, and there's some big initiatives in there. I'll, leak today that the first one is pretty much wrapping up for public announcement, is the retroactive round. We're going to give back some pretty substantial rewards to the top people or the top groups of people who've contributed to us with development feedback, who've used who are like power users of Mask. We've looked at all the wallets that, the test wallets that people have used with the test token to see who the most active are. We want to give them some shout outs in the form of rewards. So we budgeted for that and had a really cool group that we've like basically whitelisted or collated. And that previews or leads us into the community initiatives too, which we're going to start launching as well. There's going to be epochs for those, and that will reward people for getting involved. It will reward people for using Mask, for referring Mask, for talking about us on socials, namely X. This is where we have the most activity. Attending events, even space, like all these types of things. We want to just start like feeding back into the community and fostering that engagement, which will help us, with brand exposure too, acquiring users. And it also has a few other initiatives on there. One of them is still hovering in the background under works too. There might be a PR press release coming out from that, maybe before we launch the official opening of that, but it was very closely ingrained into our token economy. And I've mentioned it before that we do see the Mask token, it is a pure utility token. It's used to power the network, and it's peer-to-peer through using the network. But we wanted to have a vision to be used in more than just the Mask network. We want it to be an avenue for real life services, real life products. And through that, we'll need merchants that sort of come on board this initiative and actually use it as a means of value transfer, right? Like whether they might accept it as payment for goods and services or have loyalty programs. So we have a close partner, someone who I really like working with and trust as well. They have a pilot that we're going to do with a company, and that's going to sort of showcase the possibilities there. So that's huge as well. I love meme coins and stuff, but very few meme coins you can use to buy stuff in real life, right? Same with lots of other currencies or digital assets out there. So we'd like to, showcase that's a possibility for us in our ecosystem. So that's super cool as well. As well as that, I think that's most of the updates. I think we also have might have a guest. I think we do have a guest speaker. I'll finalize that for our next spaces. We'll have a guest as well come on board, talk about their stuff, a potential partnership. So yeah, lots of stuff. Tried to rattle it off in a quick 9-10 minutes. Did I miss anything, Action? Maybe I did.
I was trading meme coins, so I didn't hear everything. I'm sorry.
The meme coin of the day is.
No, but you covered a lot. I think that was pretty good. Plus, we're gonna have that post that's gonna cover all the details, so we should be good to go.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to funnel it all into our main hubs. The docs, docs.mask.ai. That's our knowledge base, our documentation. So we're going to update that all on there, as well as how we're rewarding people with these rounds and initiatives we're doing. That's the last thing. We've already been on Guild XYZ. If you guys or girls have tried that out, it's where you can build like a Web3 community with loyalty roles, and it integrates with Discord. You can give people little access to things, special content. It's super cool. We're further integrating that. We'll put out some announcements on that for some of our long-term supporters too, to gain some like legacy roles and special perks. But we'll also be using that to get the community rewards bootstrapped as well, and allow people to sort of like, say, hey, I'm a real user, I'm a real human, because it's our form of civil resistance. We're not going to do like a long-winded, crazy-ass layer 0 thing. Like you could see the airdrop season's really being muddled with some crazy-ass stuff. We don't want to deal with that. We just want people to come talk to us. So we'll use that now. If you're already in our communities, it's going to be easy to go in and connect through into that with a wallet. It doesn't ask you to sign to do any transaction or anything. It's just a verification of your membership, and you can interact with us. And then we'll be opening up some special channels to basically get some of the most loyal people involved with us, and the testers and the rewards all streamlined. So if you want to get involved, now's the time. We've been hinting at it for a while. And if you are a longtime user, just make sure you're liked and subscribed with all of our stuff to get the early notifications, so you can get in first and make sure you're in these initiatives and get some rewards you all deserve. So I'm really excited about it as well.
Likewise. So am I closing? I haven't done this closing thing in a little while. Should I have a go at it? What do you think?
Oh yeah. Are you going to do a freestyle for us?
I mean, I can always do a freestyle if you want, if that's a request, and I got hundreds of hearts, so I might as well.
I request it.
Yep. Kay seconded it, so it's happening.
All right. Well, it might not be the free flow that you guys might be expecting, but let me see if I got this. I appreciate everybody that joined us today. Thank you so much for giving the time of day for privacy and security, because it matters a whole lot more than most of you guys realize, especially if you're in a free country like the US and other places over here. I just thank you for tuning in, for listening to us, kind of go on and on about how important this is, because it is important. It is our future. It is our children's future. And ultimately, I just want everybody to be free and be able to browse borderless. So if you want to check it out, maskbrowser.com is a place to check out. Hopefully we get to see you in there. And like Corey said, make sure you check out social so you can see the latest things that are happening and earn some of those rewards if you've been part of the community. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you at the next show.